We are already over halfway through the rookie season of the 2021 draft. So let's do a way too early redraft. What's up? My name is Tucker. Thank you for clicking on the video. I really appreciate it. We begin at number 10. I'm not going to redraft the entire first round. We're going to go from 10 all the way to 1. And this was a really difficult decision. This is an incredibly deep draft. There's a ton of honorable mentions here, but I went with Herb Jones of the New Orleans Pelicans. In this scenario, he'd be going to Memphis, but he's quickly become kind of a darling as a second round pick in this draft. In terms of a player comp, I'm thinking about like a modern version of Thaddeus Young. It's not just the tweener size potential here. It's not just the fact that he's left-handed, but he's someone that clearly is going to have an NBA role. And if he can figure out a way to space, be a solid three-point shooter, percentage-wise, he's pretty good right now, but the volume needs to increase. He's going to be a really, really interesting player moving forward. There were other guys I could have gone with here, and this is a weird fit in Memphis, a team that already has players like Brandon Clark and, of course, Steven Adams. But I went with Herb Jones here simply because he's just had a really good rookie year so far, and I can't really ignore it. At number 9, kind of surprisingly, I went with Chris Duarte, who has fallen off a little bit after a really strong start to his rookie season, but I would have thought he would have been higher in this redraft. But for me, it just comes down to a lack of potential for him moving forward. I'm not just drafting this or redrafting this class based off how they've played to begin their careers. It's just putting myself back into that mindset of at the time of the 2021 draft, but reintroducing all this knowledge that we now have from the first half of these guys' rookie seasons. And Duarte's going to be a really good player, but he's already significantly older than the majority of the rookie class, and he's just not a guy that I think is going to get all that much better moving forward. He's going to be a good player. That's why he's at 9, but the upside and the potential just aren't there. He goes to a Sacramento team in place of Davion Mitchell, who they originally selected here, and he fits in pretty nicely there amongst their backcourt, kind of like Mitchell does right now. At number 8, the Orlando Magic are going to end up with a player they got the first time around, but at a different spot, and it's Jalen Suggs. If you've watched any of my rookie or young player videos lately, you know that I'm significantly more down on Jalen Suggs now than I was at the time of the draft. I really liked him as a prospect. I understood some of the limitations that could potentially be there from an athleticism standpoint or some concerns about his ability to be a high-level scorer, but he just made so many winning plays. He had an awesome college season as a freshman, and I really felt like a lot of that stuff was going to translate, and he would find a way to make up for some of the subpar quickness at the professional level. Unfortunately, a lot of those concerns have come to fruition in Orlando, but he's still been good enough to be a top 10 pick in this redraft. I still think he's going to be a winning player. He just has to have such a high skill level moving forward to be an above average, a top 10 point guard in this league. He has to be such a skilled player like Fred VanVleet, and that upside is there, still could be an all-star down the road, but I'm a little bit more concerned about his floor than I thought that I would have been at the time he was drafted. And again, he just goes back to Orlando here. At number 7, this is the second and last player that goes the exact same place it did the first time, and that's Jonathan Kuminga. I couldn't put him lower than 7. I understand that guys like Suggs and Herb Jones have had better rookie seasons, but the upside and the potential that everybody saw in this guy has absolutely been present. And the only reason he's not higher up on this list is because this has been an incredible class in terms of immediate production, and he has just not had that same level of production in Golden State. Understandably, if he went to a different team, statistically, he would have a much better argument to go higher than this, but he still ends up in Golden State, a place that's going to be fantastic for him to not be relied on immediately and really develop an all-around game rather than having to be this like singular offensive option immediately. So I couldn't put him lower than 7, just given his potential. At number 6, we have the player that has dropped the most out of this draft class, and that's Jalen Green. And I'm just unsure about him moving forward. Everybody else ahead of him in this redraft, I'm positive is going to be a fantastic, fantastic player moving forward. Everybody else ahead of him has all-star potential moving forward. And Jalen Green does also have that same all-star potential. The problem is it's just so inconsistent right now, and it's so difficult to see a sure thing here in comparison to the other 5 guys. In a typical redraft, in a typical year, he would probably be a top 3 pick still, but this has been such a talented group in terms of immediate production, and he's produced, but the efficiency hasn't quite been there, and there's just a lot of question marks for me. Now, ultimately, like I said, the upside, the potential, the athleticism, all that stuff is still there, and you can make the argument that he's in the worst situation out of any of these guys ranked ahead of him in this redraft, given all the guards they have in Houston and just a general lack of talent. That 100% is a case to be made for Jalen Green to be higher here. I just like the other 5 guys better. As a side note though, him in Oklahoma City would be a really, really interesting scenario given kind of the long-term outlook of that group. At number 5, the Orlando Magic are going to end up with Josh Giddey, a player that when he was drafted, I did not expect him to be ranked ahead of Jalen Green or to move up in a redraft at all. Granted, it only moves up 1 spot here, but I have been unbelievably impressed by him. And it's pretty much like a 5-way tie the rest of the way. It's very, very minor, the differences in terms of the potential and the upside and guys I would like to have in the entirety of this top 5. It's such a stacked class, which I continue to mention, but Giddey has such an interesting all-around game. He can guard, he can rebound, he can be on the ball, he can be off the ball. He's a really good passer. He gets to the rim very easily. And if he can continue to develop an outside 3-point shot, him and Shea are going to be such a fun combination moving forward, or he's going to be a fantastic trade asset for them as well. The floor, the ceiling, it's all there for Josh Giddey. And that Orlando situation is interesting because he would be allowed to do even more offensively, I feel like, and be even more of a setup guy and be on the ball. They have other guards there in the scenario, but as an orchestrator and as a creator, he probably would be even more empowered in Orlando than he has been in Oklahoma City. And so that would certainly be a really interesting combination there between him and the Magic, but I have Giddey at 5th in the redraft. At number 4 is a player that I wish I could put higher, but the upside is a little bit limited here, and it's Franz Wagner. But just in terms of production, he can't be lower than 4th. As of the recording of this video, amongst this rookie class, he is 1st in total minutes, 1st in total points, 5th in total rebounds, 3rd in total assists, for an Orlando team that is just not very good. They're like 9 and something. They're the only team in the league that still has not won double-digit games, and you can't really put any of that on Franz Wagner. He has been incredible for them, and the only reason he's not ranked higher is because I think everybody ahead of him has a all-NBA caliber ceiling, and I'm not sure he has that. He certainly can be an all-star, but I don't think that he has the potential to be one of the 15 best players in the league. He's going to be a 2nd, a 3rd option for a really, really good team, whether it be in Orlando or somewhere else. He's going to continue to grow his all-around offensive game. He's going to continue to grow defensively. I'm just not sure of the high-end upside, but it's really only because of how good this class is. At number 3, in Cleveland, I have Scottie Barnes. And obviously, Cleveland loves having Evan Mobley, but the idea of him in Cleveland is super, super interesting as well. If you've already got Kevin Love and if you do everything the same and you bring in Lauri Markkanen and Jared Allen is there, and then you slide Scottie Barnes in there alongside Darius Garland, there's a really interesting combination there because they need a wing. I mean, no offense to Isaac Okoro, he's trying to develop into the player that Cleveland needs. But even as great as Evan Mobley is, and Scottie Barnes, you could argue might be a better roster fit. And I have him at 3 just because of the incredible 2-way upside moving forward. It's turned out to be a fantastic pick already for Toronto. For most people thought that they were going to go with Suggs. You can see how much further down in the redraft he is than Barnes. Absolutely love the future and the potential of Scottie Barnes. At number 2, maybe somewhat surprisingly, I went with Cade Cunningham going to the Houston Rockets. This initially was Jalen Green. I think some people maybe thought that either Giddey or Wagner or Barnes would be ahead of Cunningham. I think that people are just not really fully evaluating Cade Cunningham because they're used to number 1 overall picks, number 2 overall picks showing up and being absolutely fantastic. I think people thought that Cade Cunningham was going to average like 20 and 7 on good efficiency and be incredible, have like a Luka level rookie year. That's just not going to happen with the infrastructure in Detroit without Jeremy Grant there. And I think this is a player that when you get better players around him, you're really going to see the skill level and the value of someone like Cade Cunningham as an elevator of the roster once you get spacing. And he has a ball screen guy that he can really build some chemistry with. I think that we're really starting to see some positive signs, only scratching the surface of what Cade Cunningham can be in this league. And as a bigger facilitator, creator guy, it's really just going to depend on Detroit's ability to build a team around him. And once they do, his value is only going to go up from there. I can't put him lower than 2 in this redraft. And then at number 1, maybe you could have guessed it, it's the Detroit Pistons getting Evan Mobley. And I really don't like this fit for him, if I'm honest, because there's not a lot of guard creation here if you're taking Cade Cunningham out and putting in Evan Mobley. There's just not a lot of perimeter talent around him, and that fit in Cleveland is just much, much better for him, where he gets to play the 4 and the 5. He gets to play with all these bigger guys. He's learning a ton of defensive stuff from guys like Jared Allen, and he's got an incredible guard there in Darius Garland to continue to build that chemistry with. And that player just doesn't exist in Detroit. So even though it'd be really cool for him in a redraft to end up going first overall, he's absolutely been the best rookie in my opinion. It would be a much worse fit than him ending up in Cleveland. And that's kind of a conclusion I've come to after looking at this redraft, is a lot of these new rankings in terms of the fit for each of these guys, outside of like Barnes being in Cleveland or Wagner being in Toronto, a lot of these fits are just way weirder than what we ended up having. And it feels like a lot of these players are in the correct places. But this is going to be my way too early 2021 redraft.